Hello, YouTube. Welcome to my bookcase. It is a rainy, cold, miserable day as we go into fall here in Chicago, so I figured I would talk about some peaty whiskies. So I've got the idea here is to compare two very, very young, sort of artificially woody young peaty whiskies for you from basically one's from Islay, right? One's from India, and we'll see how they get on. So a little bit of background before we start. The Paul John is an Indian whiskey. Many of you might already be familiar with Amrut. These are actually headquartered in the same place in Bangalore, in southern India. But whereas Amrut actually keeps their distillery pretty close in the same place, the John distillers have their main distillery way off to the northwest on the coast in Goa, which is also the namesake of the only genre of trance music that means anything. So no age statement on this, but it's young. It does come in a very nice box here, which has a magnet and everything. I think it's a little too ornate for something like this, but hey, it does let me keep my pasta in it after the fact. So I'm just going to slap these in. There we go. Pretty close to a perfect fit. And set that aside. It also comes with a booklet, which is useful mainly because it tells you that it's unchill-filtered. It doesn't say that anywhere else. I don't know why. Otherwise, it's just inflating the price. We'll get back to this in a minute, but let's start with the option that's actually from Scotland first. This is a Bunnahabhain, which is, of course, in the northeast of Islay. By capacity, actually the largest distillery on Islay, but I don't think they're producing as much as they're actually producing as much as Kalila is. Now, most Bunnahabhains are unpeated, as you know. They've been producing peated batches since I think the late 90s. Most of the ones I've had have been, you can tell they're peated, but it's just enough that you can tell. Put it that way. It's like Springbank or Benromic or something. This is apparently a new thing. Staoisha, which is a much more peated series. This one is from 2014, God help us, and was aged in a dechar rechar cask. Now, what the hell is that? This is the sort of thing that Ralphie likes to complain about. I actually like these things. It's actually pretty traditional rum outside of Jamaica, at least. What they're doing is they're basically taking a cask which has been pretty depleted, which has been used, maybe 3-4 times already, and they are stripping down the inside, just ripping off some of the wood that's been, depleted, and then giving it a fresh char, so that you're exposing fresh wood and then charring it up, and then they're putting the spirit in. Sometimes they'll actually dechar it again to kind of get some of the fresh char off to make it not so obnoxious, but they haven't done that here. So there's a 4-year-old whiskey that they've sort of used that process to make artificially woody, and it's a way of getting a ton of wood into a whiskey without getting those sort of really nasty green notes you sometimes get from virgin oak. I've talked about those in other videos. And I'll provide all the information about this below. I think this is a Binny's bottling from Signatory. Signatory, one of the big independent bottlers, one of my favorites, actually. I think this is out of stock, but they're going to bring in tons of these. So this is sort of, expect whatever I say for this, expect that it will apply to future versions of this. Okay. Staoisha. Okay. Peat and oak, very direct. Very modern, actually, would be the word. Sort of peat and ash and tons of vanilla ice cream. What this so with Bunnahabhains, including the peatier batches they made before, like the ones from the 90s, I often get a very sort of leafy herbal note, which is one of the distinguishing characteristics of the distillery for me. And I am not getting that here. This is in many ways this reminds me of something like the Lefroy quarter cask, in the sense that it's keeping the peat, the really peaty signature from the distillate, but at the same time it's sort of fudging and cutting out some of the the nooks and crannies and details that come along with the peat and the rest of the distillate. This just comes off like kind of an anonymous oaky peat bomb, which is nice though if you like the kind of thing. Ash, vanilla, wood spice, coconut pie, really. Just kind of desserty stuff. Some kind of like old fruit liqueur thing in there. Like I want to say maraschino, but it's not. That doesn't seem quite right. But something like that. And a little bit of wet dog in there, which is the sort of giving it a little bit of character. And I like the wet dog. And that's it. It's very direct. It's very simple, but it's also just smells delicious. So let's give this a whirl. Again, it's kind of the same thing. Peat. So Islay peat. So it's not farming peat. This is very clean seaside peat. You know, it's peat and sort of brine and very clean rather than there's no barnyardy stuff going on here. Coconut shavings, vanilla again. Little fresh ginger, not too much. Hints of ash. One more time. Tea. Let's go English breakfast tea, like just strong brewed breakfast tea. Yeah, wood ash, wood char, black pepper. Actually reminds me a lot of Ardmore, sort of that very, desserty kind of quality that Ardmore can take on a lot of the time. So it's not as sort of mainlandy. Ardmore can get a little farmy at sometimes. This is not that. This is, except for the wet dog element, this is very clean. Okay, so it's kind of, peat porn, if I can put it that way, in the sense that it's not, it's kind of exactly what you expect, if I can put it that way. This is what if you went to the Home Depot and you ordered, 750 milliliters of peated whiskey without specifying this feels like kind of what you would get. It's a little bit anonymous. It's meeting your expectations. It's delicious, but there's also kind of, it's also not flawed in any way. But that's nice. But there's nothing here that sort of says, I'm Bunnahabhain. I am, I have these gigantic stills behind me, and so forth and so on. So it's a little bit sanitized. It's very modern. And let's go to the Paul John as a comparison. So this is Paul John makes a whole bunch of different Indian single malts. This is the Peated Select Cask. This particular lot is August 2016, batch number 3, at 55.5% alcohol. Oh, I never told you on this one. This one is 60.4, so 5% stronger. Now, you might think, by comparison, if this guy is a softie and this is from real Islay, what's the copycat from? How soft is the coffee cat from India going to be? This is going to be, just a walk in the park, right? and, and then it rips your head off and beats you to death with it. This is just Jesus. Actually, let me add some water to the Bunnahabhain while I try to uh, wrap my head around what's happening in this glass. So I was honestly expecting something, a little bit middle of the road from this. Hang on, let me check. Mm-hmm. Because Amrut has a peated version too, and it's a little bit anonymous. It's a little bit more like this. This is not that. This is Jesus. It's brutal. It's like a combination of, again, seaside peat, very clean, peat and seashore stuff. But then there's this tropical fruit element, which is just like massive. It's actually holding up with the peat. So it's, on the one hand, and the peat is actually very Lafroigy. It's very medicinal. So you're getting peat, like old bandages, like seaside air, some like old campfire smoke. So throw some old bandages and medical waste on your campfire. That's kind of what's going on here. But then right alongside that, and just as aggressive, is like orange peel and tangerine and like peated mango and nectarine and really more like dried mango. If you've ever had that, like Whole Foods or whatever was like that. But then there's like this. The wood is providing a little bit of a dessert note again, like kind of cookies, something like that. So it's really, the effect is like take some s'mores, freshly made campfire s'mores, except peated, and then like pour grapefruit juice all over them. It's really extreme. It's not neither of these is very peaty. Both of these seem to be like at kind of Ardmore levels of peat. Kind of more graham cracker, kind of ashy. There's a kind of a cigar called a money maker. I don't think they make them anymore, but they were made in Connecticut. They're really cheap, just these ugly black things. And something about this is reminding me of those, how those smell when they were smoking. It was sort of very light and very dirty at the same time. A little bit of like bubble gum, like double bubble. You remember those things? And just topsoil, just straight up, out of the bag from Lowe's or whatever, topsoil. Just completely bonkers. It's one of the most sort of off the rails, difficult noses I've tried to wrap my head around in a long, long time. Ooh, this is tricky stuff. Okay, on the palate. Here we go. It's it's fascinating, but I mean, you're really getting sort of Lafroigy peat and like aggressive, bitter, sour tropical fruit. So, but then there's the oak. There's like if you could candy oak, this is kind of what it would be doing. Seaside peat. It's actually a little bit farmy too. Now the farmy element comes through. You're really getting like a farm dirt and like a pig pooped in the corner or that kind of thing. Hospital waste containers. Just throw some of those in your mouth. Maybe dig the needles out first. Peated orange, peated peaches, peated pears, guava. I mean, just to fill in your list of tropical fruits, and they're all kind of here. Campfire ash, cigar ash. Again, that moneymaker note. Breakfast tea again, but it's more like just chewing on the leaves directly this time. Jesus. There's a lot going on in here, if you haven't figured it out. Like even a Lagavulin-ish kind of coal smoke sort of element going on. Obviously black pepper. Um, Something that reminds me of like really good old cognac. That kind of heavy, you know, Lamazon wood thing going. I don't know what woods they're using in this, but I would be shocked if they were just using ex-bourbon casks. And to finish off the list, a little bit of Manuka honey. This is difficult. I like it a lot because it is difficult, but with the exception of people who just find Lefroy and stuff too boring and easy and straightforward, I don't know if a lot of people are going to prefer this over this. We'll go back to this in a second. Let me add some water. 4, 5. Okay, back to the Bunnahabhain okay, it's got a bit of water now. It's had a minute to rest. So what do we got? It doesn't change that much. The young whiskeys tend not to, if I'm totally honest. It does sweeten up a little bit. More, yeah, kind of more vanilla. A little bit more of a kind of coconut essence-y thing. Interesting. The wet dog note has almost become like a Calvados note, like a kind of that sort of soapy, funky, almost medicinal, but not quite note that Calvados can sometimes do. Like just a little sprig of mint in there, just to remind you that this is a Bunnahabhain. That's kind of the only hint that I would get in here that this is really a Bunnahabhain. And the palate, kind of the same as before. Very driven by oaky sweetness, vanilla, ash, and lots of peat. Kind of just very straightforward, if I'm honest. Peat porn. No one's going to object to this. No one's going to be surprised by this, except for maybe the nerds who just want all whiskey to be 1973 Brora or something like that. But it's also not challenging in any way. I mean, what is pornography? It is that which does not challenge expectations. They are all being fulfilled here, and that's great. I'm enjoying this. I would give this. Let's give this an 86 plus. It's a very successful experiment. This tastes like the future. Honestly, this tastes like everyone's going to be heading in this direction because it's young and it's delicious. It's safe. It's not going to disappoint. And hey, you're doing that using barrels that you already have on hand, and you're just recharring and reusing them. So I'd be shocked if this is not sort of the norm for Islay kind of going on out. 86, I like it. Part of my soul hurts to like it this much, but it is what it is. Back to the Paul John, this monster. Yeah, okay. This develops a lot more. there's a kind of like a fruit candy, like an old timey fruit candy thing coming through now. A little bit sweeter. Pete's still definitely there. I think this might actually be a hair bit peatier than this guy. It's actually there's some grainy notes coming through now. Like a little bit of pear, a little bit of cream of wheat. Like a hay, but like candied hay, if you could do that. Um, Still totally wild. I don't even have a point of reference from Scotland. If you something about this makes me think of like a peated lowlander in a way. It's like if you combine a peated lowlander with like a peated tomatin or something like that, you might be close. But this is so far off the map. On the palate, mm, just super complex. Well, I mean, it's still young, but all the complexity is coming. Not all the, a lot of the complexity is coming from the distillate. Just yeah, more peppery, a little bit sweeter, but very dry. Have I mentioned this guy is I mean, it's not sweet, but it's kind of off dryish. This is quite dry, um, peppery, a little more of a kind of seawatery iodine note coming through on the palate now. Hmm. Tropical fruit is still there, like still peated orange, peated tangerine, um, and sort of ashy cigar thing coming through, um, and a little bit of that sort of peated candied hay thing that I mentioned on the nose, mm, especially in the background. Yeah, this is almost lowlanderish in the way it kind of delivers its flavor. It's actually once, especially once you add water, it actually comes across as quite, I wouldn't say light, but um, you know, more delicate than you would think. It's fascinating stuff. This is much more. Well, how do I put this? I mean, the problem with this bottle, right, is um, it's so complicated and so interesting, but it's also just a ton of hard work. This is so austere and so serious. I mean, watch this. Okay, a mushroom walks into a party. The host asks, "What are you doing here?" And the mushroom replies, "Well, I'm a fun guy." See that? Not even a smile, right? I mean, that's kind of the problem here. It's just a little bit too difficult, a little too humorless. I'm gonna give it the same score. This is an 86 plus. There's no off notes or anything in this. It's very well constructed. It's just and there's more here in lots of ways, but I'm having to work so much harder to get to it. Yeah, same score. I want to root for this guy, but I feel like most people are going to be buying this guy. So 86 plus to both of them, um, and I don't know. It's this is a weird review pair. Um, yeah, no victory for either side. And with that, I will send you on your way. Thanks for watching, and cheers.